Hey folks, welcome to another Conflikt 47 tournament report. I'm going to cover all three of my games, my army, how I felt the event went, any weird interactions, that kind of thing. I did actually manage to do the arrows and things for maps on all three games this time. I didn't get as many pictures as I wanted to, but hopefully there's enough that you'll enjoy the show. And yeah, let's get into it. Assault Platoon is led by Commissar Drugov, and then a veteran platoon commander in Mark II Guards Power Armor. He's got an anti-tank rifle and a point of guts. The veteran Mark II Heavy Infantry with anti-tank rifles and 3 extra bodies up to an 8-person squad. That's 3 anti-tank rifles so far, if you're keeping track. And then we had a normal squad versus. I didn't go over mauls. I feel like I don't need them. 30 points for just a reroll against vehicles. I don't plan on throwing them into too many walkers, so we'll see how that goes. Then we have 2 squads of regular engineers, full 12-man squads with flamethrowers. These were a little bit of an experiment. I wasn't sure how they'd fare. I'm very reluctant to put that damage value 4 into a game where 6s and 7s even are common for your damage value. I thought they would just get eaten up too quickly. But I've got 2 squads in to kind of test the waters there. And with the interactions with Heroes of Soviet Bloc, well, that goes on to Mark IIs, and if I can kind of keep them in a death ball, they get fanatical, there's lots of interactions. I was hoping that it would kind of come through and shine. Then we had a veteran anti-tank rifle team. I couldn't afford the sniper, I didn't have the points left, but I did have enough for an extra activation, got me up to 9 activations. And then we have 2 T-34s. Obviously, they're listed as the T-34 76ZPs. They're actually just the T-34/85s with heavy anti-tank guns, downgraded to get the heavy anti-tank, mainly because I actually built this army list on a budget. I think if you go to the Warlord game store right now, you can kind of build it, and I think it came out at about £210 for the army. So in round 1, I played against Colin. He was running a very interesting British army, British Commonwealth. It felt very Chindit themed. He was at the last event as well. I didn't get to play him last time, but his army looked beautiful. He had his Hornet all done up in the Burma scheme. You can feel like it's going through that muddy jungle. And then he had a second Hornet this time, a priest, some light reconnaissance vehicles, some Galahads, a Grenadier squad with heavy Tesla, which was his only Rift Dice. And then he had 2 units of Chindits that he brought in from a fieldcraft. So it had that similar feel to mine. Oh, and some light mortars. Don't forget light mortars because they do take part in the game and ruin my day. Spoilers. Well, yeah, it was very interesting. It felt like a similar feel of trying to bring those basics onto the table and see how they go. So let's get into the actual game. This one was just straight up seek and destroy, and you were moving on onto table edges. Hands up, I messed up this game. I didn't have my brain on it. I'd actually gone down the night before, so I didn't have to do an early morning drive, but I just completely brain farted on how deployment works and where you can move on from. So spoilers as to I kind of overextended a little bit, but as you can see, it's very big table with lots of huge ruins. We've played all of these buildings, all of these ruins as single pieces. So where you see the breaks, it actually the big one in the middle, we just count as one solid piece. So there was no like line of sight gap through it, which was very interesting. I wasn't overly worried. There was enough lines of fire for my tanks that I felt like I'd get some value. But you can see the early turn 2 movements here. You had the Hornets came on from the side of the table, right at the edge of the deployment zone, which is what threw me, because I was expecting him to have to move through the trees if he wanted to get to me. So unfortunately, the T-34s were immediately under pressure from the Priest and the light mortar. They pinned out my tank commander. 4 pins immediately. Was pretty unfortunate. They just didn't take part in the game much after that. He failed his order test in turn 2 and had to reverse. Stayed on the table, but I had nothing that could kind of really threaten the Hornets after that. And they got clear lines of fire onto my first big blob of regular engineers and took them down to just the flamethrower and the NCO. Also put some chip damage into the Mark IIs, so it was feeling. I was on the back. I was winning the game. I'd got 1 kill dice from the Ursus coming through, taking out a unit of Chindits on this right-hand flank, but it felt like my center was getting smashed and my tanks weren't going to be able to contribute. Then for turn 3 is where we get the arrows come in now, because I'm terrible at taking pictures. We had a lot more action as those 2 Hornets just pushed right into my lines. The secondary was actually to get units into your enemy's deployment zone, so obviously they were not going to slow down. My T-34s continued missing, not doing anything. But my poor flamethrower team didn't survive the HMG shots. 12 HMG shots at point blank obviously killed those 2 guys. He ran the walker into my unit. I think they actually failed the morale check for tank shock. I did forget about a reroll at this instance because I could have rerolled to not be destroyed because of the Soviet special rule, but I forgot. And I mean, they were going to get punched and kicked to death anyway. I didn't really have anything that could hurt it. The anti-tank gun doesn't do anything into a front armor there. I mean, I suppose I could have got a superficial, but hey ho, big sad. The second unit of basics did advance up and managed to do decent damage onto the Chindit squad with a little bit of rifle fire. And then as they push forwards, I yet to use the guards Mark II, the hero's gut point, to put the basics dice back in the bag and got to reactivate them and flamethrower those Chindits and actually got a kill in the center there. Meanwhile, Drugov and the Ursus are just running rampant through all of the infantry that's on this right-hand flank, really having a good time. Then we come on to turn 4. You can see the one of my tanks now reverses off the table. The other one gets assaulted by the Hornet and just punched into next week. I did stand and fire. I used my rerolls. I just couldn't get anything to actually stick on them. Yeah, this wasn't the game. I almost felt like I was being a bad opponent. I was so invested in the tanks because I really like how they came out. I really wanted them to perform. So apologies to Colin if I was overly salty. I did try to take their licking in good spirits, but I failed so many order tests this game. I never got to reactivate the tanks. Failed. I think I fired once with them this game, apart from the reaction fire. I failed my test, obviously, for the command squad. I failed my test with the flamethrower to kind of do anything. I failed. It was just so many fails. Oh no, I should have kept Drugov back to re-roll my order tests. It's my own fault for using Drugov to kill stuff. But speaking of Drugov, him and the Ursus did just run roughshod through everything on that flank. Turn 5, to try and slow me down, the Priest pushes through this wall in the top and fires point blank into the Ursus. Does kill one, leaves me with one Ursus in this second unit. But Drugov charges in and rips it apart. Well, you only have to get a hit against it because it's open topped, so that deals with that. I've now got the Humber, the little Vickers carrier thing, and both Hornets solidly in my deployment zone, having killed everything. So My last unit of assault engineers tries to run, fails their order test, but they're stuck now up in this safe part of a table. They're not going to make it into Colin's deployment zone. So I've got 2 units. He's got 4 in mine for secondaries. Kill dice wise, it's a draw. We finished where he killed 6 of my units. I killed 5 of his. In the end of turn 6, that's how it all shapes out. I feel like I actually ran the anti-tank rifle too far to the left and exposed it, so that was a silly mistake for giving up a free kill dice. The officers team, but everyone should have just rotated around to a right flank. I shouldn't have tried to hold the center, especially after the tank started failing. And I knew it became plainly obvious I wasn't going to deal with the Hornets, so I should have started trying to just run and get out of their way. Make them try to have to run to catch up to me to get those good shots instead of trying to stand there, because it was just attrition. If I'd have not got a good dice order to get my charges off, I never managed to catch the grenadier unit up here. It just ran and ran. But if I'd have had worse sequencing, I probably would have lost this game, and it would have all been down to my errors in, 1, not remembering that he could bring those Hornets on from the side, and 2, just pushing stuff left into his kill zone rather than retreating into my own kind of safety zone where he didn't have anything to threaten me. So I played the kill point game badly. One really interesting thing that came up from this game was using superior code breaking. The wording on that is if you assign the dice to an officer, that officer cannot use it to snap to. He assigned it to the command Hornet, and because of the bolt action precedent for German vehicles not being officers to get the extra snap twos, a command vehicle isn't an officer. So it was like, well, I'm not assigning dice to an officer, so I can use the snap 2 ability. Like, well, yep, that's what it says. It only limits you if you're using the dice on an officer. So he got to superior code break both of the Hornets, and that's what kind of annihilated so much of my my force early. I took effectively 4 lots of Hornet shots that I wasn't expecting to be taking. I didn't play that game well. Definitely 100% my fault. I feel like Colin deserved the win, and I got lucky in the sequencing of the orders for one turn. I got both charges off and killed, I think, 3 units in one go with the guts reactivation before he could get a dice to start trying to run them away. So that's the way the dice bag goes sometimes. It giveth and it taketh away. So I don't want to come across too salty on those morale checks when I recognise the dice bag did save me. So that was a draw for round 1, which better than last time. Last time I lost my round 1 using the Commonwealth myself when I played against all of the Axis players. But this time I played against Michael for round 2. He was running another Commonwealth force. This time we had a Percival rather than the Hornets. And again, we played the same mission with as last time. It was the central objective. And again, there was this big ruin right in the middle that was the hold until relieved objective, was just on the other side of it. So I was back and forth on if I would rather assault into it or have to go through the ruins. I think I got the better side of it. As you can see the table, I got this really open side, and then Michael got all of this cover. We actually did move this hen house thing over into my deployment zone because we were sure that someone must have moved stuff because there was just nothing there, and it just felt very, very open, like something had been moved. So I deployed in just as close as I could to kind of advance into this cover. My plan was, if these dogs didn't run to take this objective immediately, I was just going to try and put the Ursus into the heavy cover, get them a 2-up saves, and then make him have to kill them on a turn where he also had a unit next to the objective. That's not what I actually did. Unfortunately, the dogs did run up first and claimed the objective. The Percival actually moved over into these ruins. And it was like, I just saw it. I'm not going to bounce the model, but he is poking out the front of it. And I was like, oh, if he's poking out the front, that means I can charge him with my Ursus. And then I charged him with Ursus, and obviously he'd killed one of them already with its fire, and then he kicked one and killed me. And then I got my hits, and then I needed a 3-up to do superficial, and I got a 2. I used my luck reroll and got a 2, and then it went to second round of combat. He failed to kill me on this one, so maybe I should have taken those mauls. Maybe that would have helped. But yeah, it was just one of those things. I got a bit hypey with them. So instead, that meant that the Mark II squad was going to have to deal with the Cerberus squad. So they moved up behind. Everything else started trying to envelop. And Drugov moved in behind the cover where the Ursus were in the centre. And he'd fired most of his shots. So I was pretty confident with the cover from this little chicken coop that I would be able to survive any incoming fire that was left. And that set me up for turn 2. I got the first dice, and Drugov just immediately went through straight into Mark IIs. Then I got to consolidate. I put the dice back in. I got the next dice again, which then let me charge into the Mark IIs. And that was pretty much game over. These 2 squads over here next to where this combat's all happening did try to put something into Drugov, but he just couldn't deal with it. And then the Percival got flamethrowered. The tanks continue to not impress. The Mark IIs and the other infantry started putting a lot of fire into the Cerberus squad to make sure that they could take the objective back. And then we go on to turn 3. That's the flamethrowing of the Percival happens in turn 3. The dogs are now completely annihilated. The coyotes finished off the basic infantry on the left hand side of my line. Drugov just finishes everything, and at this point, the only infantry unit that's left is this light mortar team up here. And I've got a T-34 closing in for the top right-hand side. Turn 4, he gets up. I get the first dice again. He goes and just machine guns him to death. And at that point, we can keep playing if you like, but you now have no infantry. So the game is kind of done. And the secondaries on this one were the 2 flanks. You had to have people, so I claimed both of those secondaries and got the win in that one. So yeah, it kind of felt like the reverse of last time, where as soon as those monstrous infantry get into the Mark 1s and Mark 2s, they just can't stop them. The British don't really have anything apart from that Cerberus squad to jump in front of them and take them out. It just felt very difficult for Michael to actually slow down Drugov. And the game felt really good. The list did exactly what I wanted it to. The engineers, again, soaked up a lot of fire despite being regular. Then we'll do game number 3. This one, I'm sure, if I've got your name wrong, I'm really sorry. It was a 3rd British Commonwealth player. I ran the gauntlet again. Last time I played nothing but Axis. This time I played nothing but Commonwealth. We were playing Demolition this time, and it was against Matthew. And Matthew had a Merlin. So my first game against a Merlin, where I'm actually trying to see if I can kill it. But we played Demolition, and Matthew put his right out in the open here, in the center of his deployment. And man, you can't quite see it on the map, but just in between these two T-34s. And I just deployed two T-34s and then a unit of infantry behind them to stop them reversing off the table. And then I just sat those on ambush, was my plan for most of the game. So I planned on actually trying to divide his forces up. I was going to rush for the middle and keep him having to shoot whatever I was putting in the middle, because if they make it, then I win. Meanwhile, the Ursus were going to go sneak up all of this left flank and try and deal with these robots here, his Cerberus squad and his officer over here as well. And that's exactly how it plays out. So we have turn 1. We use liberal use of guts in turn 1. Gets me a sillily advanced position. I've got the surge onto Drugov. I have the Ursus all the way forwards. I literally just stood in point blank of him and was like, yep, you can hit me on 2s. It's all good. It's all good. He shot everything into me. I was in no cover, but I still only lost 1. They now don't get to react when I charge. The tanks did blow up Universal Carrier as soon as it showed. The first shot actually hit it, blew it up, and I was like, oh, well, it's game 3, and they decided to put ammunition in the barrels. We got the charges off here. Everything was just bloodbath over in this left-hand flank. The Ursus charged in first. They killed... No, he superior code braked. He then used the Mark IIs to shoot at the Ursus. He killed 1. The 1 remaining Ursus charged the Mark Is, who couldn't react because I was still within 6. Then that was enough. That one guy basically went all the way through them. I think it took 3 rounds, so we did do the have to pull a dice for me to finish them off, but that was fine. He moved his officer out to block my Drugov's charge because he'd moved the Mark IIs. That meant that the angle of my charge might not go within 6 for his ambush charge. So he put the officer there, which then let me charge, and then he charged me. We had a lot of fighting, but Drugov lost 1 of his companion-friendly birds, but killed everything else. Then we have the push into the centre. The Guards Mark IIs, they use their guts on themselves for the first time in the event, and just double ran into the centre of the table. The Merlin had come around and was hammering them. Everything basically shot at these 2 units, and the Guard Mark IIs did really well with the cover. They had the heavy cover, so they managed to live quite a bit longer than I expected them to. The only other thing of note, my anti-tank team started sneaking up the table, try and get better lines of fire, and the Galahads kept failing. This was the first time the pins from the Soviet Special Rule, the harmonics, actually did help. Just kept this unit pinned down for almost the entire game. When they did eventually come out, they got ambushed again because this right-hand tank just stayed on ambush the entire game. I never actually put its order dice back in the bag. I just left it out every round. The Merlin actually ran through the rest of them, killed off all but 1 of the Guard Mark IIs. The Flamethrower did its job again and took out another unit. So in the event, between the 2 squads, I killed a unit of Chindits, a Percival, and a Merlin. So I think they did well offensively, as well as helping me not die. Then I just started flooding. Again, I dealt with everything on this right hand, on my left-hand flank, and everything on the right had been dragged into the centre. So I knew that my objective was relatively safe. That T-34 should be able to keep the Galahads away. If not, because it's only turn 3, if not, it was going to feel bad. But I was pretty confident at this point. As you can see, turn 4, everything's just right up in the British lines now. So many explosions, bullets flying around everywhere. the Galahads tried to come out, and then I shoot them again, and just I think I killed 1 or 2 of them, and they're just not going to make it across the table. And then turn 5 is the turn where I actually close with 3 units at once, because I could have made it with 1 unit last turn, but I deliberately left everyone short so that I could jump all 3 units onto it in one go and ensure that it just didn't have enough activations left to then deal with all of them. And yeah, it was the base blows up, I win the game, and yeah, and it's a really good event, right? I went undefeated, theoretically, and that got me 2nd place. I credited Commissar Drugov, because there wasn't a single game where he didn't kill at least 3 units in 2 turns. Hitting Commonwealth 4 times in a row as well, 3 times in a row. I just didn't feel any danger for my units. It wasn't really that much stuff that was going to ignore cover, so I wanted to jump them into cover to keep the hard kill saves and 3s and 2s. There wasn't really anything to stop me. The robots just fold under that kind of combat pressure. Hornets, good. Would 100% recommend. I had been tempted to pick up 1. I'm now back and forth if I want to pick up 2. But when I revisit my Commonwealth list, I think Hornets are getting added in. The dogs, nobody managed to charge the dogs into the Ursus as on the dogs' terms, if that makes sense. Like the ambush charge was still reacting to my actions. So I think that you probably need to just suicide the dogs in and hope that you can kill them. Because as soon as you get onto the surging dice, you're then on super 6s with the dogs as well, because they're only pen +1. So even the answer isn't an answer, because Drugov's got Rift Mastery and can be an 8 at any time he needs to be. Yeah, everything else, I think. Mardian Gloria was at the event. He'd sent me his Soviet list that he was taking, so I'd sent him. I was like, yeah, I finished my Soviets. And he was like, yeah, I'm taking mine, comrade. And he ran Drugov as well. 6 Ursus, 2 squads of Daughters of the Motherland, a unit of Mark 1 guards, which have much better guns, a truck, and he had just this death ball list. And he went undefeated on the day as well, but he won all of his games. Didn't have that sneaky draw to ruin his day. So he came first. So Drugov was 1-2 on the day. And then Tom, the Axis player that I played first last time, was in 3rd. That was his 2nd podium in a row with his Axis list. In summary, looking back on my list, I think Drugov has to be man of the match. It's so powerful. I struggle to want to make a competitive Soviet list that doesn't include him. He's just value all the way down. 3 points of guts, a point of luck, and a point of Rift Mastery is such a solid package. And yeah, just borderline abusive, I would say. I would not be disappointed if he got a points hike, take a point of Rift Mastery off him, take a point of gut somewhere, just something to nudge him back a little bit, because he feels like clearly the best unit in the game at the moment. Removing that unit, the regular infantry was amazing. They soaked up more fire than I would have hoped. The problems that I had with them was all morale based, and that was when I didn't keep them in the correct area. I didn't have my officer support to give them the extra leadership. So a couple of times I just didn't play them optimally, and they kind of stalled. But that could also be dice rolls, because I'm taking these tests on 8s and 9s and 10s. I just felt like especially that first game, I wasn't doing very well on my morale rolls. But even so, they were a pain for my opponents. The flamethrowers made them have to be respected. The rifles had stuff to shoot at in every game because I played Commonwealth all the way through. Yeah. The big question mark would be over T-34s. Throughout the day, I killed one inexperienced white mortar and one Bren carrier. That's it. 3 games, I must have fired the main gun maybe 3-4 times in the event. It felt underwhelming. I think I'd put a lot of hope on them because I do like the paint jobs. I do feel like I think I did a good job. It was my first attempt at whitewashing, and I do like them. But I think that they probably didn't earn the points. Not in a trading kind of thing. But that said, they distracted the Hornets and everything in game 1. If I'd have actually played better with the small units of infantry and ran them away, sacrifice the 2 T-34s, maybe I win that game. Maybe I should have been more aggressive with them and just advanced and tried to get my machine guns into play sooner. There we go. That is the tournament recap. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If I get down to another tournament, I will do that. And then I do have some other content in the pipeline. So hopefully you guys will come back, and I'll see you all on the next one.